So realistic financing expectations. So for anyone thinking of purchasing a truck, a trailer, a straight truck, a flatbed, a reefer, or whatever commercial equipment you need, we need to set some realistic financing expectations. We will talk about financing with good credit versus bad credit. We'll also talk about financing with 0 down versus 20 or 30% down. We will talk about drivers with 1 year experience versus a driver with 3+ years of experience. We'll even touch on divorce and the effect on what it does to you financially and how the banks look at it. Let's get started. At some point or another, you, myself, and anyone in our industry are going to need some sort of financing. Whether it's for your truck, your trailer, your flatbed, your dump truck, your straight truck, you are going to need financing. So let's talk about how to get proper financing and get the best deal for ourselves. So let's make these 3 virtual boxes, okay? We'll call box number 1 gold, box number 2 silver, and box number 3 bronze. And primarily when the banks receive your file, they will take this file and put you either in the gold box, the silver box, or the bronze. Now let's look at the differences between these 3 boxes and what makes your file a gold, a silver, or a bronze. So number 1, let's talk about credit. The gold would be the 690 plus. So any credit score that has 690 plus will be put into the gold box. The silver would be 650 to 690. And then the bronze, which is probably 85% of us, that their file is in the bronze. So the gold and silver, we'll just touch on them a little bit, but primarily my video is about the people in the bronze and what makes the finance companies fund you or not fund you when you're in the bronze. So the gold and the silver, obviously you guys are probably homeowners. You have no problem coming up with 25 to 35% for a down payment. Your credit score is great. You've been working primarily for the same company and you have your pay stubs and your taxes are filed up to date. But let's talk about the majority of this video. We'll talk about people in the bronze file. So about 3 months ago, I got 4 of the most competitive companies out there, and I built a link here on this YouTube channel, and I asked drivers that if you need financing to fill out this form is going to go to 4 different companies and they're going to compete for your business. Well, in reality, until today, we've received 2,000 forms from drivers out there that needed financing, and we have confirmed that these companies have already helped over 100 people and funded their deals. And yes, one of those 100 people is Brian. So don't take my word for it. Let's hear what he has to say.
Believe it or not, I went to that link on our website for financing. You know, the handy one that Ronen tells us about. It goes to 4 different people and then blah, 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 blah. So what happened? Believe it or not, that's the one I used. Very simply, I went to the link, put my information in. Now, Ronen says it takes 20 seconds. It didn't take 20 seconds, it took 30 seconds. So 30 seconds in, put the pertinent information in. Very simply, it went off. Where it goes, I don't know. I'm not a technological genius here. I don't have a clue where the hell it went. It went out in there to the finance world.
All right, so back to it. 550, you have an Equifax report or your credit score is between 550 to 650, which is the majority of us out there. Let's talk about number 1, our bank statements, okay? One of the things that these companies, these finance companies are looking for is they want to see your last 3 months or 6 months bank statements. The reason they're asking these from you is because they want to see that every 1st and 15th there is a deposit being made into your bank account. They want to see that you're able to hold a job, and they want to see that a deposit is being made, a payroll deposit or any deposit from a trucking company, that you're actually working. So the reference letter is not enough, you know, a letter of employment is not enough. They want to see those bank statements. They want to see that you are getting paid every 1st and 15th. Well, a big problem in our industry is truck drivers, owner operators, lease operators. They are using a company that is Money Mart, okay? Now, Money Mart is a huge no-no in our industry. And the reason for that is because when you go and apply for funding, you do not have a deposit into your bank on the 1st and 15th. Now, people that use companies like Money Mart or they have a payday loan, what they're doing is they're actually routing their checks to Money Mart, and Money Mart is advancing you money on your pay. So you don't have records of your own bank statements that money is going into it every 1st and 15th. Now, let's talk a little bit about late payments and no payments on credit cards. cards. The biggest no-no that you can do is not pay your minimum balance. So somebody I talked to, I interviewed 3 finance companies before I put up this video, and one of the things that they told me to do is you gotta let people know this trick. There's a trick to these finance companies, okay? So let's say you have a credit card and you have a balance and your minimum balance is $300, but you don't have a minimum balance. Well, if you send the finance company, if you send your credit card even $50 or $25, they cannot post that you did not make a payment. You made a payment, it's less than the minimum balance, but they cannot put that in your credit score in the credit bureau, that the no payment. So remember, some form of a payment is better than no payment. Now let's talk about divorce and what it does to truck drivers. A lot of truck drivers, myself included, have gone through a divorce, and mine was probably the worst that you can think of. I mean, 4 years of litigation, non-stop bombardment, okay? And yes, it's true that your credit score is going to get affected, but you can't really use divorce as the reason for your financing or your Equifax or your Beacon score, that's the reason that it fell. And yes, the finance companies do understand that when you're going through a divorce, you have these outrageous lawyer fees that are being thrown your way, and then you have the lawyer fees, and then you still have your credit card debt, and that's when things start going sour. But a normal finance company will know that if you went through a divorce, they'll ask you for the time period of your divorce. Now, if your financing is in place before the divorce, and then your financing was also in place after the divorce, so if you have made your payments regularly before the divorce, and you had a good standing and you had a good Beacon score, an Equifax report, then you would be okay. They would look past your divorce. A lot of people, what they do is they use the divorce as the reason behind why they basically blame everything on the divorce, but they were pretty bad before the divorce, and they just use the divorce as the reason to justify why it was bad. So that's what these finance companies are looking at. Another thing, a big thing, is child support obligations. So if it's a finance company and they see that you have child support obligations and that you're not paying your child support, in their eyes, if this person is not paying for their own child, will he or she really be paying for their truck? I mean, think about it. If you're supposed to pay every single month, I don't know, $1,500, I won't even tell you what I pay because most of you will get floored out there, but most people need to pay child support. You know, let's take a number, $1,000, right? So if you're supposed to be paying $1,000 every single month to your ex-wife for child support and you don't pay for it, that means that the likelihood of you defaulting in a finance agreement is 10 times more likely, because if you're not paying your child support obligations, then you're definitely not going to be paying for your truck, and that's how they put the two together. So let's talk about NSF checks. So they also look at your banks. Now, if there is NSF checks, non-sufficient funds checks, so you wrote somebody a check and it bounces back. Well, how many times have you done that? Because if you're bouncing checks on other people, then you're probably going to be bouncing checks on the finance company that's going to be financing your commercial equipment. So make sure that you do not have NSF checks. If you don't have enough money in the account, do not write that check, okay? And a trick that I use is use bank drafts. So instead of writing a check, I would go to the bank and draft a bank draft, because they take out that funds right out of my account so I cannot waste it, right? So that's what I do. The next most important thing, guys, is income tax returns. So in the US, your 1040 return must state that you are a driver. Do not fill it out in a way that it is unknown. If you're out there going to look for credit and you're looking for a finance company, the finance company is going to ask you for your tax returns. And in those tax returns, make sure it says that you're a driver and not unknown. That's the one thing they do not like, when it's unknown. So one more thing that they look at is your net income, right? So if you are making $75,000 and then you're showing that your net income is only $10,000, $12,000, well, how in the world are you planning to pay for that truck, right? So you really want to show a net income, a reasonable net income, and not expense everything that you can from your gross income. So you really want to show your net income, because these finance companies are going to help you to get forward, right? Whenever you limit what you're making, the finance companies will not help you. Then you're kind of staying in the same position year over year, but you want to grow as a person, you want to grow financially. So one of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to show more of a net income. The last last thing that I want to talk to you is about your deposit, your proof of funds. When you're taking a loan, usually if you're buying a truck, and we'll take a truck or a dump truck or a straight truck, right? You're buying it, we'll take a magical number of $100,000. Well, you're going to need to come up with 20 to 30% of that number. Well, where are you getting these funds from? If you're taking it out of a line of credit, that's a big problem, and that's why they keep asking, show us proof of funds. You need to show that inside a bank account sits X amount of dollars and that you're able to withdraw it without going into debt. So that's the main thing that they're looking at, is that the funds that you're getting is not going to put you more in debt. So now let's get back to our 3 virtual boxes. So we have the gold, we have the silver, and we have the bronze. So if you are in the gold, your realistic financing rates are between 5 to 7%. Silver is between 7 to 11%. And now the bronze. The bronze is going to be a very big variation. It's going to be anywhere between 12 to 13%, all the way to about 18, 19%. But don't take my word for it. You should fill out the link below and get these companies to see what you qualify for. What's even better is take the next 6 to 8 months, prep your file properly. There's so much that you can do just by the points that I've given you to make sure that you don't have any more NSF checks, to make sure that you're not using a money mart, that you're depositing funds into your account. Make sure that you are making your payments, your minimum payments on your credit card, and try to get yourself out of debt. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, you're definitely gonna like this video that I have over here that's all about recruiting scams. So all the scams that recruiters pull on truck drivers. If you love this video, you're definitely gonna love that video. Check that one out. Well, this channel is all about trucking. I hope you learned something from this video. If you have any questions or comments, link them down below. I usually am fairly responsive to the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Ronen, R-O-N-E-N, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.